In the world of basketball sneakers, or just sneakers in general, there has not been a shoe that got anywhere near the press that the Nike Book 1 got this year. And for better or for worse, they were pretty polarizing when they were first announced, during the promotion phase of them, and then once people got them on feet. There was a lot of people that absolutely loved them, a lot of people that thought it was a complete miss. I kind of fell somewhere in that I like the idea of putting in a performance shoe in the shell of something that looks more like a casual shoe, but I do think that Nike did miss a few really big opportunities with the Book 1 to really give it that wow factor that a lot of us were expecting. So let's get to fixing them. Now, the biggest catalyst for this video came months ago when I was watching the sneaker shopping episode with Devin Booker with Complex. And in that video, they asked him, hey, this shoe looks like it is more of a casual street shoe. And then Devin Booker said, yes, but once you put it on, you're gonna see the performance that is actually inside of it. And when I watched that, I thought to myself, that is gonna be awesome if they pull it off. And then after I got them on foot and tore them open, I realized that Nike missed the biggest marketing opportunity in the history of marketing opportunities. Because if you look at my really crude drawing or just the teardown of the shoe, you'll see it's a pretty standard Nike midsole underneath there with Cushlon foam, and you got the shank as well as just, a rear foot zoom air unit. Now this shoe is the Nike Book 1. They really leaned into the book theme, right? The book pages here on the back of the shoe. And the whole marketing campaign had to do with books. So why not hide something in the shoe like a slab of Zoom X in the forefoot, and then the whole marketing campaign would be, don't judge a book by its cover, because the shoe then on the outside still looks like, like a Nike SB or, an Air Force One type shoe. And then on the inside, there's something that's, one of Nike's most bleeding edge text. I don't know. I'm just a simple country podiatrist that makes sneaker videos in my basement so that I have an excuse to tell my wife that I'm busy and can't do house chores. But to me, that would really be something that would pack performance within the shoe while still giving the silhouette of a more casual shoe. Because I really do think it's a great concept for a shoe to look like a more casual shoe on the outside, but then, reveal itself on the inside. You just have to have something on the inside really worth, the aha moment. Now, with the Book 1 looking like an Air Force One or a Nike SB, it also is not super laterally stable, but there were ways that Nike could have made this shoe just as stable as a lot of their basketball shoes while still retaining the silhouette. A really simple way to do this was actually something that Nike had all along, which would have been a clip flange like in the Nike Sabrina 1. Now all this is a little rubber clip here on the outside. It's actually really hard to see on camera, but that little clip gives outsized, lateral stability to the shoe, right? Just does not want to let the shoe buckle over. And since this is not a drop-in midsole shoe, that is enough to keep the shoe stable. Now, even if you don't want to add this, right, you want to keep those clean lines, right, of the rails of the shoe, I get that, that's fine. But then do what Lacoste did in the AGLT 23 Ultra, a tennis shoe. Just dimple the midsole right here, right? All you would really have to do, let me find my black marker here. All you would have to do is make a little dimple in terms of an oval right here within the foam and the carrier of the shoe. You can even do it in a complementary color to that carrier foam on the outside, and then it would be just really barely noticeable, but it would give enough compression on that lateral side to where the shoe didn't want to feel like it was buckling over. Because in the Book 1, because there's not a lot of foxing on the uppers, not a lot of reinforcement, the shoe can feel a little bit floppy side to side. Something that simple would really give it a little bit more of that outside stability. And in terms of the serrated foam on the bottom of the shoe, make it a little bit more flexible, I get why they're doing that, because the shoe is a little bit more flat tread profiled, it's a little more flat to the ground like a Nike SB, make it a little bit more flexible. Honestly, to me, the shoe is flexible enough as it is. The foam setup they chose was flexible, and even if you do put some Zoom X on the forefoot, it's still gonna be flexible. So to me, that is just making the shank work a little bit more and making the shoe over time even more unstable. So I like the idea. That is something that you'd probably put on a super maximalist shoe, right? Like that is something that maybe the LeBron 19 could have used in its foam areas, right? Because it's so, the exoskeleton is so stiff. Now, the one other thing I would say about these that would just increase the stability a lot, really not having to do much. Now, I should preface this by saying I do like that the last eyelet here is plastic backed. It at least shows a little bit of build quality there, and the fact you can crank down on it without, ripping the lace. But the even better thing would have been was just to make one more back eyelet here for a runner's knot. And honestly, that would have helped so much with the lockdown, because Parts of this shoe that felt unstable were because you were getting a little bit of heel slippage. And remember, the padding on here is fantastic. I mean, this is really bulky, thick padding. It's just that the lockdown in them wasn't as good. So if you got a little bit more surface area here in the ankle collar, a little bit more of that padding and bunting coming around your ankle, the sensation of stability is going to be a lot more. You're going to get a lot more confidence on the court. And I do just want to touch on the outsole. I do like that they did put a welt here, the stitching in the forefoot. I do think that's a really cool nod to the, shoes of past. But the outsole tread in and of itself, pretty simple pattern, right? It's more of a razored herringbone. And that's great. That's all well and good. But they had such an opportunity to make a lot of these in gum rubber, especially if a lot of the colorways they did of the book one would have looked so cool and would have given this shoe just a little bit more grip, because to me, this shoe was a little bit more forgiving on the grip side than some others did require a lot of warming. And to me, the tread profile was almost like an indoor-outdoor type profile, whereas, these shoes really meant for indoor hardwood courts. So I do think even just a little bit of a larger selection of gum rubber models of these really would have played more into that theme of this shoe kind of occupying two different universes, like within the same silhouette of shoe. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I think for non-elite players, I think for people that don't have the footwork of Devin Booker, these shoes in some ways just start to break down at points, right? You start to either push through the sides of the shoe, the containment isn't there, or do these really deliver that performance on the inside of the shoe and then the silhouette on the outside of the shoe? To me, it's a great first step in a shoe, and I love the idea. I just think that to make this shoe, like I said, that super crazy performer, kind of disguised as a casual shoe, I do think that there needs to be something in there that does have more of that wow factor. And I think overall, there's just those few things in this shoe that are missing. Kind of like the Nike GT Cut 3. The idea behind them is amazing. It's just needs some small tweaks to bring that shoe up into that elite territory. And speaking of that, if you do want to see the real world fixes I would put in the Nike GT Cut 3 to bring those into that elite territory, some of them pretty far out of the box, but I do think they work. Make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.